Hi, my name is Dean. I'm the chief exec and founder of Minds Ahead. Minds Ahead operates across the UK. We've got a range of colleagues spread across the whole of the UK, actually, because we all work remotely. We are a CIC, and our mission is to revolutionise mental health in schools. And we do this by supporting school leaders and other colleagues in school to be the best they can when it comes to mental health. Our work is very much focused in that whole mission around addressing mental health from a school perspective. So thinking about what would really help mental health for existing school staff, so that teachers, teaching assistants, school leadership, governors, etc., can really make a difference when it comes to mental health in schools. And we do this by primarily selling qualifications and high quality training to the school system, so that school leaders can get new qualifications in school mental health. Everything from kind of simple kind of short courses, which is about a term for us, right up to 3-year masters courses. And we've been generating income, trading income since our foundation. We started with generating income right from the beginning of our work. And I'm here today with my colleague Denise Windle, who is our business development director. And I'm going to ask a question to Denise, and we're going to have a bit of a conversation around the importance of traded income, especially for social enterprises. So just exactly that question, Denise, how important is traded income to us at Minds Ahead?
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything really for us because we don't really have an awful lot of funding from elsewhere. So the trading income really illustrates the quality of the program because people are willing to pay for them, I guess. Um, yeah, and I mean, our mission, I suppose, is to help to change the way that mental well-being and mental health is approached in school. And so for us to have the impact, we need to have as many people as we can fully trained, qualified. And that means our trading income is actually a measure of our success as well, so that we can have the biggest impact that we can. Um, I know so far, and Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's been quite a few thousand people now who have gone through since 2017 and actually bought our programs.
You're right, and that's exactly right, because when we set up Minds Ahead, we relied completely on traded income. And as the founder, I was very keen to test the market truthfully. So for the first 2 or 3 years, we didn't go after anything other than sales income. And it's actually only a bit later that we started looking at other sources of income for support. So we were very much on the kind of enterprise side of the social enterprise bit in the beginning, really wanting to test, would school leaders, would head teachers, pay for this? Because if not, then from my perspective, it wasn't worth pursuing.
I guess I was thinking about what is it that we do differently, and is have we got a secret ingredient that other people don't have? And I don't know if you have any specific thoughts on is there one key element of what we do that is different to because there's other providers in the market, we know that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, that, isn't it? I don't think there's a secret as such, but I think there are some things that we do that are a little bit different. So we, we only do we only do training, and a high proportion of that is qualifications. And there's not many other providers in the market who are kind of only doing training and qualifications, I suppose. A very few doing qualifications, and most of us kind of are doing it. If we're doing school mental health training, it's kind of in addition to something else they're doing, although that's changing in the last few years. So, and the other thing I'd say is that when our secret is really, or well, something we did is we really kind of listened to, well, I think we really listened to schools and tried to understand their needs and what it was that they were excited about and what would make a difference. So that kind of really customer, and actually we got head teachers and other people who are kind of around the table to help design our programs at the beginning. So it was really, I think it was us leading the process. So this phrase "school led" is used a lot in the sector. I don't think it was school led, but it was definitely school informed, and it was definitely schools, telling us what was needed and helping to shape the programs, right up to sitting on kind of validation panels for our masters courses, informing the learning outcomes, informing what the assessment would look like on our qualification routes. So they were really involved there. And again, that goes back to that kind of point about the importance of a trading. Like, if the school leaders really, that was part of testing, like, do they really want this? Will they give up several days of time to meet kind of roundtable discussions, to help design something? And busy school leaders will only do that if they think it's of value.
And I was thinking, when you were talking about will they give up their time, I was thinking actually maybe what is slightly different about us is that a lot of the qualifications and the training that we do, usually they're not short courses, are they? They involve maybe 8-9 weeks worth of study, at the sort of shortest, really, possibly 6 to 9 weeks the shortest, and then the longest being, obviously you've got the diploma, and then you go on to a 3-year master's. And I suppose that's slightly different from a lot of the other providers in the market. And the fact that perhaps our approach is, we do as much on the sort of preventative, protective side as we do on, on the where do you get support from, how can you support? I'm guessing that makes us a bit different as well, in that, yeah, a lot of the other competitors may take more of a sort of clinical or psychological approach.
Yeah, that comes back to us kind of fitting in with the school context and what the schools were telling us they really needed for their existing structures, staff, policies, culture, etc. And that leads on to an interesting point about, like, how do we review our success? Like, what does success look like for us?
And I guess our mission is to change the landscape of, and the way that mental health is approached within school, mental health and well-being in schools. So I guess the amount of impact that we have, the amount of people that go through our training, tells us how successful we are as a company. If we have more people becoming qualified over long periods of time, we're much more likely to get that sustainable change in this sort of holistic approach to mental health in schools.
Yeah, I completely agree. And because we relied so much on traded income and sales, then a key measure is obviously getting the sales in, but then the kind of the renewal of that. And that's the biggest thing. And for us, it was interesting because when I first set up, there was also like discussion, should we kind of invest money and time into generating things like impact evaluations? And I was expecting to do that, actually. But when I started meeting head teachers, they were never asking for that. It wasn't needed. So that might be something that's needed for kind of funders and grantees and foundations and trusts and all of that. They might like that. But actually head teachers were just, applying their their kind of professional knowledge, really, to say, this is what we think is needed. And for me, that was like the test is whether the head teacher was saying, with my limited budget and my limited time and my staff's limited time, actually I'm going to invest some of that into this, and trusting them as the customer and as the gateholder of public funds to make those decisions. And so that's what we've relied on as kind of how we measure success, really is focused on what's our customer, i.e. the school, is saying they want and need, and are they investing their time and effort into it.
And that's actually one of our growth issues, I think, is that since 2017, I suppose we had the pandemic and moved online, and that was very good for us because it means that we can have a wider impact. Coming back to impact all the time, but actually the economic situation and the situation that schools and colleges find themselves in, with budgets limited, I think that has been one of our challenges because of relying on trading income from those limited budgets and limited time that teachers have. I mean, I only joined the company at the beginning of the year, so I'm guessing that before that there were some other growth challenges that were felt by everyone in the company.
Yeah, we went for quite a period of rapid. We were going quite steadily. We've been really fortunate in that we've had year-on-year financial growth since we started. Even during the pandemic, we sustained that. But then, owing to the DFE grants coming out for school leaders for mental health, which we were well positioned for because we already had, we'd formed a partnership with a major university, Leeds Beckett, and we'd already run a master's course for a few years in school leadership and mental health. So we were well positioned, and we were doing other courses similar to what the DFE were looking at. So we were very well positioned when that came out, but that sent our growth kind of, going much higher. That from a relatively small base, because we started off with no core funding. We started off from just getting individual sales. So it was a small base, but we grew quite significantly. And I think the challenge at that point was kind of rapid growth in such a short period of time, especially as we didn't have the infrastructure. So I'm the sole director, or was the sole director of the business up until quite recently. And we didn't have a board in place. What I did is kind of draw on pro bono support from time to time from different organizations, which kind of bridged individual little gaps, but we never had an issue. We never had kind of a sustainable board. And so as a chief exec, that was definitely a growth challenge, is we didn't have, that kind of governance in place, that kind of broader infrastructure to support the organization when we did grow pretty quick. And we've now addressed that. And I think it's always that trade-off I found of kind of how do you spend your time on kind of putting in place those systems and processes, or do you spend your time kind of getting sales and delivering your product when especially you're 100%, well, most of your income is through sales, you don't really have the time and the kind of luxury to say, what I'm going to do is spend weeks and months kind of finessing a board and putting in place all that kind of stuff, because there's no core funding to support that. And that was definitely a growth challenge for us.
I guess it's quite similar to a lot of SMEs in that we are really, building a plane as we're flying. Really, we're just sort of making it up, aren't we? We're just trying to catch up the whole time, particularly when we've had such high growth in the last 12 to 18 months.
And that leads on quite nicely, I think, to saying we've had this rapid growth. So what's the future? What does the future look like for Mindset Head? Where do we go from here?
Yes, I mean, it would be really nice to have sort of sustained, growth that isn't quite so rapid as it has been over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. I think it's nice to sort of consolidate our teams. I mean, we're all working remotely, so getting processes in place to help us all with performance management and all the kind of things that we need to motivate us as well, I think would be really nice.
Yeah, definitely. That kind of looking for that sustained growth and the kind of the future. In one sense, there's definitely an appetite. I think the market is there. We were at the forefront of it, I think, for a while, and my ambition is to kind of keep at the forefront of it. So how do we become not reliant on the kind of the stuff that's maybe working now, but how are we kind of still challenging the system and looking for innovative ideas to push things forward? So there's that piece. And so I suppose there's also this kind of tension, isn't there, with growth? How much do you invest in new things as opposed to kind of trying to maximize your existing products and make sure you got maximum sales from those as opposed to time spent on? So these are kind of questions that we're actively grappling with, aren't we, Denise, in here at the moment, and thinking what is the future of the market and how do we position ourselves within it? Where do we invest the limited resources we have to ensure that we are sustainable? Absolutely.
And how do we help, I suppose, the staff in education to be more efficient, with their time when it comes to approaching mental health and creating environments where, young people can have good mental health?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was a good chat, actually. So thank you very much for your time. And yeah, it's good to talk about these kind of questions, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Feels very, very, very right now, doesn't it? Thank you.
Thank you.